Pauper. It's a format that's based on its cheapness, based on common Magic the Gathering cards. It should be easy to get. It's easy to get into. It's not like those modern or legacy or vintage decks or even Commander and CEDH decks that cost you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to compete. Hell, standard right now is like $500 at the floor to get in on some of those decks, and that's ridiculous. So in these strained economic times, you'd think let's go to a format like Pauper where decks can be less than $100, sometimes a lot less than $100 if you make your deck not correctly, but if you make your deck in a certain way. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about how sometimes even Pauper decks can be very expensive, and it's because of a handful of cards. Now, I do want to stress, this video is not about the most expensive cards that are played in Pauper. Because that would be a slightly different list. There are some cards on here that are Pauper playable or even see a lot of Pauper play, but are not going to be shown here. These are cards that according to Scryfall are the most expensive common cards available. Now I'm taking, just so you know kind of my methodology here, I'm taking the cheapest price that Scryfall will show for some of these cards, but yet they are still the most expensive. The other caveat I will say here is that I am not going to do, I'm skipping all of the Portal 3 Kingdoms cards, because that would just skew the list entirely. I'm doing 10 here. If I did 10, let's see, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 of the top 10 would end up being from that one set. And that's, as much as I love Portal 3 Kingdoms, and someday I think it would be very funny, in fact I am going to write that down, that I need to do a whole set review, Pauper set review of Portal 3 Kingdoms, just to see if there's anything useful in that set. Spoilers, there are a couple cool things in there, but I'm putting those all off to the side. So if you wanna play with Slashing Tiger or Zodiac Rat or Hunting Cheetah or something like that, we'll talk about that another day. But these are 10 of the most expensive non-Portal 3 Kingdoms common cards that are legal in Pauper. I guess I should say that. They are not all necessarily common cards, but they are all legal in Pauper. We'll get into it. All right, let's start with number 10, and that is Darkness. Darkness is 1 black mana for an instant. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. So Darkness doesn't really see a whole lot of Pauper play. It's mostly a commander card. It's kind of a pie break because this is a fog effect. A fog effect you would normally see in green, and this is black. So that's cool. And you'll see a lot of commander decks that will just take a fog. You know, instant speed. Everybody deals no damage. You know, the one guy brings in his Craterhoof Behemoth, has a billion damage on the board, swings in, and you go, oh no, none of that. But in Pauper, this has seen a touch of play, is seen a little bit of play, and it is in those turbo fog lists, as you might expect. Now, again, they're mostly playing the green fogs and sometimes even the white fogs, but occasionally they will dip into a little darkness here or there. You'll also kind of see it as like a one-off sideboard piece in some decks too, just as a way of stopping a bunch of combat damage, but it's I would say it's mostly really only played in those turbo fog decks, and even then it's not in all of them. A lot of those decks don't even care about darkness. They'll just stick with the green fogs that they've got and maybe throw in a white one if they need to, but it does see a lot of commander play. Now its Legends printing, which is its original printing, is about $16 right now, but this Edge of Eternity special guest version is about 2/3 of that price. So if you can stand this weird art, and you know what, I think the art is fine, it just doesn't really look like a Magic card to me. If you can be okay with that art, go ahead and take your discount. But if not, the Legends is right there. And it also saw some It's in the Warhammer 40k Commander decks, so you can go pick up a copy of that there. But those decks are also kind of expensive. Even if you try to get that card out of that deck, it's still like 14-15 bucks for that copy as well. Number 9 is Ashnod's Altar. Now here we see a card that does see some Pauper play. Ashnod's Altar, 3 generic mana for an artifact. Sacrifice a creature and add 2 generic mana. We see Ashnod's Altar certainly as part of the namesake of the Altertron decks. And it finds a number of combo lines, especially when it's paired with Mere Retriever. It's also played in Commander too, certainly. You'll see a lot of Aristocrats decks that will play an Ashnod's Altar. I have it in an artifact-specific one with Arcbound creatures, so you're sacrificing the Arcbound creatures, and it puts their counters on another one of your artifact guys, and it uses Marchesa the Blackthorn to then be able to bring those guys back because they had +1/+1 counters on them, and then you can just keep doing it over and over again each turn. And that's pretty cool. It's really cool that you can do that. And Ashnod's Altar is a pretty pivotal piece in that deck, and as it is a pretty pivotal piece in a lot of sacrifice decks that it can work with, and certainly has a lot of infinite combo potential to it, which is why those Altertron decks or those Mere Retrieval combo decks exist. Originally from Antiquities, and this 6th edition that you're seeing on screen here is the cheapest version, but interestingly enough to me is that the Chronicles version is the only one that is actually set at common. And that version isn't much more expensive. It's only about 13 bucks instead of the 11.5 that you'd get from the 6th edition, with the same art, by the way. So both of those options are available. Or if you want to cheap out a lot but not be good for tournament play, it does have a World Champ Decks 2000 printing that's only around 8 bucks. But again, that's a gold border one, not legal in tournament play, so be a little careful on when you play that one. Cabal Ritual is next. Cabal Ritual is 1 and a black for an instant. You add 3 black mana. Black, black, black. And it also has Threshold. You add black, 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 black instead if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard. So this doesn't see a ton of Pauper play, but Dark Ritual is in the format, so we kind of have the slightly better one. This is sometimes a worse Dark Ritual because you're paying 2 and you're getting 3 out of it. But when you can get that Threshold and pay 2 and get 5, that's a much better deal, as you can imagine. Cabal Ritual, it's actually played in a lot of Spy combo decks, but those are the Spy combo decks that show up in Legacy or even Vintage. Oddly, not the ones in Pauper Spy combo. That deck just doesn't play that. It does see a little play in Cycle Storm, though, which makes some sense. It works a lot with the Threshold ability because you're able to cycle a bunch of stuff in the graveyard, get that Threshold going, and then you get more mana to do more Cycle Storm shenanigans. The cheapest printing is actually this Secret Lair drop from this is Last of Us, of course, but it actually for a couple bucks more, you can just get the Torment version. I think the Torment version, the original version here, looks really nice. It also has a Mystery Booster 2 version that looks pretty cool too with the Future Sight frame. I always like that as well, and that's just about as expensive at about $14.50 for either the Mystery Booster 2 or the Torment. So pick which one you like, but the Secret Lair version is technically the cheaper version. Pyretic Ritual is number 7. It's $12.15 right now. That's the Magic 2011 version, but there is a list printing that's a little bit higher, but it's also only comes in foil, which is kind of interesting to me. It also has a Secret Lair drop version that is $50. I don't even claim to understand why that's possible. Pyretic Ritual is 1 and a red for an instant. You add red, red, red. So pretty similar to Cabal Ritual here. These ritual effects are all relatively popular. Actually, interestingly enough, this doesn't see any real Pauper play. Like on first glance, you might expect that this would show up in those kind of Red Storm Pauper decks. but it doesn't. It gets outclassed by Seething Song, which I think, if I was doing this right, would actually be number 11 on our list. So you're not going to see Seething Song today, but Seething Song does show up. That is, I think, 3 mana to make 5 red mana. So that's one that does show up in those Red Storm decks. Now, Pyretic Ritual will show up in the modern Ruby Storm deck almost exclusively. That's where it goes. It sees like I've seen like 1 or 2 meta decks that have tried playing Pyretic Ritual somewhere else in like a I don't know if it's Legacy or Vintage or whatever, but it's one of those other formats. But mostly you're going to see this in Modern's Ruby Storm. And yeah, that $50 Secret Lair version is nuts to me. Just don't get it. Number 6 is Ophidian Eyes, man. Or Ophidian Eye, rather. This card's so cool. 2 and a blue for an enchantment aura with flash, and it enchants a creature. Whenever enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. So not combat damage, any damage. And it deals to an opponent. So if you have a way of dealing damage to each opponent from your creature and it's got an Ophidian Eye on it, you draw 3 cards. This card's really cool. Not for Pauper, though. It sees no Pauper play. This is pretty exclusively a commander card. And, it wasn't too long ago, actually just last year, about this time, this card was about $4 from Time Spiral. And it's really because of one card. And you might already have guessed it. It's Vivi Ornitier. Ruining standard, ruining commander prices. I did have another one that it's not ruined, but has spiked, is Quicksilver Elemental. So if you remember that card, kind of just a bulk rare from Mirrodin, and now that card like shot up to $30 or something. And I think it's starting to come back down as VV is played a little bit less. Certainly played less in standard now that it's banned, but also played a little bit less in Commander as the format kind of evens out. And if somebody I have a friend who had a VV deck, and we all kind of just picked on him until he stopped playing the VV deck, or until he took it apart and had a different commander as part of it, because we all just know the power of Vivi. Vivi is very strong. He does a damage to each opponent. You throw the Ophidian Eye on it, and now you're just drawing so many cards and getting so much value. It's ridiculous. So that is why this card shot up to, at one point, $20, and now it's starting to come back down to where it is, where it's about $13 for the list printing and $13.50 for the Time Spiral printing. So really good card. Honestly, I'm a little pissed that I didn't pick up one when it was $2 to $4, because I have a Lucian commander deck that's all about dealing damage and drawing cards, and certainly not as broken as Vivi, but would have been great to get this for that deck. But now I'm priced out of it to the point I was like, I don't need that card. I can get other curiosity style effects that are much cheaper. No, they don't have flash speed, but I'll live. So sad for me that I didn't get an Ophidian Eye, because I like Time Spiral a lot, but it's okay. I can live without it. Number 5 is Culling the Weak from Mystery Booster 2. Well, this version of Culling the Weak is from Mystery Booster 2. That's the cheapest version anyway, to get this white border one, but originally from Exodus. Culling the Weak is a single black mana for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you sacrifice a creature and you make 4 black. So more ritual style effects that you're seeing. They're really popular. They're big mana accelerators. So that's kind of just why they end up being more expensive, is because they allow you to cheat out things faster. And we love cheating in Magic. Culling the Weak is another commander card, really. We don't see any constructed 1v1 play for Culling the Weak that I could find. This is something that you'll see in Aristocrats decks, maybe even some CDH stuff, but I think it's more just normal Commander Aristocrats decks that see this be played. You get the sacrifice off it, so you can have some kind of dies trigger, but you also gain a bunch of black mana that you can then use for whatever else you're going to do. You can cheat out something real scary real fast with something like that. Originally from Exodus, this card actually has a few different reprints, but all of those reprints have been in very premium, very limited style things. It's got a Destroy All Humans manga promo card, and it's been in Mystery Booster 2 with this white border that you can see now, and it's also part of the Twisted Tunes Secret Lair. That's the one by the artist from Cuphead. So, if I think it's from the guy from Cuphead. I mean, if it's not, the style is extremely like the Cuphead art, but I believe the artist is actually the Cuphead artist. So, all those versions are pretty expensive too. The Destroy All Humans one is $20, and that's only in Japanese right now. Although that manga is getting translated and localized here for the States, so we'll eventually get that card. We've gotten all the other ones as those cards have come out. And then the Secret Lair one, if you've got the non-foil one, apparently it's like 25, and the foil one's over $100 right now. That's crazy. But Culling the Weak, pretty good card, just not really one that we would ever play in Pauper. I guess you could play it in Pauper. I'm not saying you can't, but not one that we have seen in competitive Pauper play. Number 4 is Army of Allah for 1 and double white. It's an instant. Attacking creatures get +2/+0 until end of turn. Originally and only from Arabian Nights. I have to imagine that the name is the reason that this is so expensive, because there are other commons from Arabian Nights, Bird Maiden and stuff like that, that aren't nearly as expensive. Now, that's an old set, so a lot of the cards are expensive just by by the token of being old, and less of them are out there. But Army of Allah, for whatever reason, has spiked more than the others. Actually, it's come down in price from where it used to be, but still, it's much more expensive than the others. It's not on the reserve list, so that's not the reason why. But it has, weirdly enough, shown up in a single deck that I could find, a single competitive deck on MTG Decks. That was it called? Yeah, mtgdecks.net. And that deck is a Boros Infect deck, which really fascinating. I'll put the link to it in the description. But I guess it makes sense there. You give all your creatures a power, or your attacking creatures a power boost. So if they have Infect, they're giving more poison counters. That is a thing you could do. But I have to imagine that the person who put that in his deck, or her deck, was doing it just for the style points. They ended up going 1 and 2 in that event. So let's not say this is the next sleeper card. But hey, that's cool. It's cool to see old cards get thrown into decks and occasionally work. There's what is a Sunken City from the Dark is now starting to see some play in fairies decks, mono blue fairies decks, and that's really cool. Like, that's a card from the Dark that we hadn't been playing, that we hadn't even been considering for a while, and now it's just popped up into this, not new deck exactly, but certainly by comparison, a new deck. So to see a card like this see some play, it's only a one-off in that deck. And again, the deck did not perform all that well, but you can see that it's not just a joke to put that card in an Infect deck. Even if Boros is not necessarily the color combination I would think of when it comes to Infect, but you can pick up a copy for $25-ish. And that's its only printing, so go check that. Actually, it kind of has 2 printings, because it has where you see the mana symbol where the 1 is, that one generic mana symbol. It has like a lighter version where the gray circle behind the 1 is a lot lighter, so it technically has 2 printings, and I think they're both about the same. Maybe the lighter one's a little more expensive, but it's really only from Arabian Nights. Number 3 is Telekinesis. Telekinesis is double blue for an instant. Tap target creature. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt by that creature this turn. It doesn't untap during its controller's next 2 untap steps. Now, we don't have stun counters back in the Legends days, so this is how you had to track it anyway. I wonder how many people just accidentally untapped it, not remembering that it needed to still be tapped, and that the opponent didn't think about it either, and just let it happen. I'm sure it happened all the time. Without the stun counters, I'm pretty sure that's why stun counters were made in the first place, just so it's a little easier to remember that, hey, that guy needs to stay tapped this turn. and also because you could proliferate them, I suppose. But this card originally a rare from Legends, and that's its only paper printing is that rare from Legends, which clocks in around $34 right now. But it has an online only Masters Collection printing edition rather, and that version is it actually is legal in the penny version, the penny dreadful format. So it's not an expensive card online, but it is an expensive card in paper, and a lot of that expense is due to it being on the reserve list. So we're never going to see it reprinted again, at least not in paper. I guess they can do it more online if they chose to, but that's where a lot of that price comes from. It's not used in any current meta decks in the format, so I don't know. But if you have a copy of this, or you feel like spending $34 on a tempo piece, you could do that and play it in Pauper. And I even like that it has the black mana or the black set symbol, because we hadn't started doing the rare, the gold set symbols yet for rares in Magic yet. Legends was still very old enough to not have that yet, but you can pick that card up and it looks enough like a common when you play it. Nobody's gonna bat an eye, and it is Pauper legal. It's not illegal to play this card. It might not be the best card to play though, because we just have so many other removal options at this point, or tempo effects, or things that stun the opponent, but also get you a lot more value. Cryogen Relic can put a stun counter on a creature, but also draws you a card. Blossom Bind will, keep the creature tapped down indefinitely until they get rid of the enchantment. So there's just better versions of this card that are out there, but it would be pretty cool to sneak one in. But when it's a reserve list card, I'm not paying the $35 to get it in there. Although its price has actually dropped pretty significantly. It was only a handful of years ago in 2022 where this card was around $85. So pick one up now, or maybe wait, see if it crashes even further. Our number 2 is a card. Let's get back to something that might be played in Pauper. It's Lotus Petal for 0 mana. Free. It's a free card. You get an artifact that taps and sacrifice this artifact to add 1 mana of any color. It's pretty good. Originally from Tempest, Lotus Petal, it's another one of those examples of a Black Lotus that is fixed, but still so powerful that it's not really fixed. Lotus Petal is a little less prevalent in the format these days, but it used to see a little bit more Pauper play, to my understanding. And maybe part of that is its growing price tag. It continues to grow in price, year after year, month after month. But I imagine a larger reason of that price increase is probably more of its legacy play, where it sees a lot of play in legacy and a number of different archetypes than it does in the few decks that it sees play in Pauper. You'll see it in Spy combo decks in Pauper. You'll see it in Cycle Storm decks in Pauper. But mostly you're going to see it in legacy. You're also going to see some pre-modern play, some vintage play. It's in fact restricted in vintage, so it's pretty good there that they had to go change the rules a little bit of how many copies you can play. And then of course it sees some commander play as well as a mana accelerant. It's in some ways it's kind of like just putting a treasure on the table for free, but it's even better than a treasure because you have so many ways of getting back artifacts out of your graveyard, because it's a full card, not just a token that disappears. There's ways of just continually getting it back and making more mana, and I'm sure there's some infinite combos that I'm not even thinking of that you can do with this, but Lotus Petal, pretty good. Continues to be pretty good, and that's why it's so expensive. At Tempest printing, which is, the Mystery Booster 2 here is the cheapest printing right now at $36. But the Tempest printing is only a couple bucks more. It's like $39. So maybe go after that one. Although I really do like this Future Sight border. That's pretty cool. It's shown up in a couple other places as well. There's a Kaladesh Inventions version if you want to spend $500+ on a Magic card, which I certainly don't want to do. There are also I guess they were from the Sonic Secret Lair. There were Chaos Emeralds that showed up. There's a few different variants for those that are all in the $130, $140 range, which is still crazy, but I guess that's kind of fun. Yeah, I don't know. The Mystery Booster one looks really good. I'd take that one for sure, but the Tempest one also, very classic looking and very good. Let's finish up with our last card. Do you know what it is? Before I put it on screen, do you have any idea? It's Rhystic Study. Rhystic Study. Yeah, I know. Rhystic Study is 2 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 1. Do they pay the 1? Originally from Prophecy. This is basically a $60 card wherever you go for it. It can be more expensive if you want a much nicer, or well, not necessarily a much nicer, a much fancier version for sure. This is not a Pauper card. It does see maybe a one-off play in a handful of decks that I think are more kind of just styling on you than they are really trying to win with a card like this. But, that's the problem with Rhystic Study. It's just not a very good 1v1 card. Your opponent's able to pay that 1, able to play around it, and you don't get any card advantage off it, and you've spent a bunch of mana on something that, taxes them a little bit, but they'll probably be okay. The reason it's so good in Commander, of course, is that now you have 3 opponents. So how many of them, you have 3 bites at the apple every turn cycle, because they're going to want to continue to cast spells, and somebody's going to run out of mana at some point, and they're just going to let you draw the card. It's great in Commander, obviously. It's a game changer there. There's been a lot of talk about whether it should be banned or not. I think Wizards is very unwilling to ban that card in Commander, even though it probably should. We probably should just ban it in Commander. But in Pauper, it's fine. It's not a particularly great card in a Pauper deck, so it doesn't see a whole lot of Pauper play. So you kind of just get yourself a $60. I was gonna say doorstop, but it's too thin. It won't stop a door, and there's probably cheaper things that you can use to stop a door. Interestingly, this Prophecy printing is still its cheapest version, but there's also a list printing that's just $1 more, and Commander's Arsenal, which is about $90, but that's in foil. There's a Judge gift card version that is $200 some that's in foil. And even some Secret Lair versions and Jumpstart versions are all hovering around that $60 mark. So you can go with those. There's also the there's like a Final Fantasy one that's Yuna and Tidus, and that's like $90. There's the Wilds of Eldraine Enchanting Tales ones. Those are like $75, or if you get the anime one, that's even more expensive. There's a lot of expensive cards out there, but this one is the most expensive card in Pauper. Now, there are certainly versions of cards, versions of common cards that are much more expensive. They were part of like a really limited run or something, and they were hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. We even talked about some of the variants here that are much more expensive, but these are the most expensive cards, generally, the cheapest versions of the most expensive cards that you can get in Pauper. Not counting the Portal 3 Kingdoms cards, which maybe we'll talk about on a future video. Anyway, thank you for joining me on this one. These are Pauper's most expensive cards. We'll see you next time.